What up, nerds? Welcome to the Nerdy Narrative. My name is Leslie, and today on the channel, I'm talking about all the things I have been reading this week. Before I jump into the books, I do want to say, if you are a fan of the Wars of Light and Shadow series by Janie Wirtz, there was a live stream with me and a few other wonderful people, including the author herself, over on the Talking Story channel. I'm going to have it linked in the description below. We talked about the first book. We're going to skip a month, and then in April, we're going to talk about book 2, which if you read the series and you loved it, you want to reread it with us, there's time to jump in. And if you read it, you don't need to reread it, but you want to see what some newbies thought about it, that live stream is going to be for you. Now let's talk about what I have read this week. Not as much as I wanted to. There was a lot going on. Monday night and Wednesday night, we had tickets to see the Orlando Magic play, so I was doing that. Then, I don't know if I mentioned to y'all, but I've started day trading. Don't ask me for tips, tricks, and advice yet, because I am learning. I am dipping my toes in. In fact, if you have any tips or tricks, please let me know. So that's what I'm doing in my mornings right now. So it's cut into my reading time, obviously. But I did manage to set aside some time for reading. So what did I read? Well, I finished a couple of books. The first one being Zora Neale Hurston's The Life of Herod the Great. I'm in process of getting all of my thoughts together. I buddy read it with my friend Una from the Codex Cantina. We talked about it a little bit. I am so excited for my friend Evie to read this one. I can't wait to see what she thinks. I got a lot of thoughts about this book, and trying to condense it down into a video that people will want to watch instead of a 45-minute just all the stuff. Love Zora. I love her insight to people. I loved her opinion and thoughts and her interpretation of this character's actions. So, I say this character, Herod was a real person. He existed, which is so hard for us to remember, I believe, because he was used as a tool for teaching if you grew up in the church like all of us down here in the southern states had to. So, loved this one. My next one, another favorite author of mine, it's the new one by Stephen Graham Jones, comes out March 18th. If you already are a fan of this author, you don't need to hear me tell you anything. You've already got this book pre-ordered, and you chose wisely. This is going to be a great pre-order. In addition to it being signed by the author, if you get it from Barnes & Noble, it's going to have red painted in pages, and it's going to have some included bonus content of letters from back, so a lot of the events referenced in this story actually happened, and Stephen Graham Jones was just, man, he was so good at looking up this time period that he wrote about, just the things that happened and incorporating it into the characters' backstories. So good. I love the story. It had so many... Why am I so surprised? I shouldn't be surprised. As long as I have been reading Stephen Graham Jones, the fact that he is still always able to surprise me, even when he writes about a trope that I have read hundreds of times, I've watched hundreds of movies and TV shows about it, and he still manages to surprise me. I love that. That's what makes it so exciting when he has something new on the horizon. So the Buffalo Hunter comes out March 18th. I'm going to try to remember to put that Barnes & Noble link in the description for you. Also, another one that I've just finished. I got to go back through, read through all my tabs again, go through all my notes, write my review, and get that coming in the next few weeks. So if you're excited to hear about those two, keep your eyes peeled. I'm going to try my best to sit down Monday and get those fleshed out, filmed, and start the editing process, because Monday is a U.S. holiday. As a result, the U.S. stock market will not be open to trade, so I won't be working that morning, so I can do some videos. Now, before I forget, and I put my little sheet here as my placeholder for my patron picks for February, I don't want to forget again, because last week I completely forgot to tell you all I started my patron pick for February, which is Dreaming the Eagle by Amanda Scott. This was picked by my patron Heidi, and my gosh, Heidi picked a winner. This is an amazing epic fantasy. Also, I would say it's a historical fantasy, and I love it because it has a lot of dealings with Rome and their push to take over and colonize the tribes in the area around them. So it was kind of fun to have that coincide with when I was also reading Herod the Great, which had a lot about Rome in it. So there were a lot of the same characters mentioned, really like that. But this book, it's a gut punch too. This one is definitely going to take you through a range of emotions. There's a lot of sweet moments, there's a lot of fun moments, there's a lot of interesting moments, but there is a lot of loss. As you can imagine, what happens when a large military force such as Rome takes over and colonizes the surrounding areas that they're trying to add to their empire? A lot of death, but there's also a big opportunity for courage and heroism, and Dreaming the Eagle is so good. I'm listening to the audiobook. Highly recommended that I get the one narrated by Josephine Bailey, and she chose correctly. Now, that's with me saying that I did not go check out the other narrators for the other edition that is available, but Josephine Bailey's got that accent. I like her style. She reminds me of Aoife. What is Aoife's last name? McManus, I think. She narrated the Gale Song series by Shauna Lawless. Loving it. This is in that same vein. We've got the worship of the old gods. Of course, now in this one, I don't know what the rest of the series holds. There's no actual immortal beings or gods that are actually present as characters in this story, but there are those that are dreamers who have the ability to dream and use those dreams as foretelling of events that are going to occur or possibly occur, prophecy, interpretation, and then you have warriors. And I'm really going through it. I thought I had been through the worst of this book, and I was telling Heidi about my progress, and she's like, well, there's one more big thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh. She's like, it's a happy thing, but it's still a sad thing. And I'm like, okay, maybe I can, build up some guardrails around my heart so it doesn't just get ripped out in this final thing. I've got, I think, a little less than 20% left of this one. Should have it finished over the weekend. I am excited to tell y'all about how that ends up going for me next week. And then I told y'all, what did I tell y'all? When this book got here, I was going to tear into it. And I did. Now, I was a little bit late, so it didn't come until, so it came out Tuesday. It arrived really late in the evening. I had already sat down and started my Overwatch time. I spend like 3 or 4 hours gaming every night. I just sat down and gotten involved in some Overwatch matches. So I didn't stop to start this book, and I also wanted to finish the Buffalo Hunter Hunter, which I did the next morning. So I started it the next day, and I read all like 30% in the first few hours. It's so good. So Scythe and Sparrow is the 3rd book in the Ruinous Love trilogy by Bren Weaver, and it could not have come out at a better time. I mean, what else would you want to be reading during the week of Valentine's Day than serial killer smut? I don't know. Now, this one I will say, now so far, I'm not done yet, but so far, it has more of an emphasis on the romance story part of it rather than the past 2 that had various forms of a serial killer aspect involved. That's all I'm going to say for those of you that haven't read it yet. I would definitely encourage you, if you like any type of romance or crime thrillers and you want to see those 2, what it would look like married together, great place to start. In this series, each book features a different brother. So it's a family of 3 brothers. The first book is about Rowan, the second book is about Lachlan, and the third book is about Fionn. They're Irish. And the narrator, Eric Nolan, who does the guys, he just gets that accent so good. So this one is about Fionn and Rose, who rides a motorcycle in this act called, is it the Globe of Death? I think it's called the Globe of Death for the Silveria Circus. She gets herself in a bit of a pickle where her leg is injured. The circus has to go on without her. She can't go because she can't really navigate her RV. She certainly can't perform. They have to keep going without her. She's left behind, and Fionn kind of steps in to help take care of her, and it just gets wild. I know I said this when I read Leather and Lark, but I think this one might be my favorite of the trilogy. I don't know. It's so much fun. Pure, unadulterated enjoyment. I also started Based on a vote on a recent video, I listed some comics manga I had that I hadn't read yet. Let you all vote on which one. You picked Watchmen. So I got started on this one. I love Rorschach. I love that he's the only one, crazy as a lunacy is, he's the only one willing to actually stand up for what he feels is right. But he is definitely off his rocker. So I haven't gotten too far into it, and I've never read the comics before. I've only ever seen cameos, performances, and other things, and heard about it and heard references, but I did see the movie way back in the day, and Rorschach was my favorite character. And y'all, you might remember, I think I had some pictures or vlogs or something that went up during the pandemic, but before they decided they weren't going to allow these, I had a neck gaiter that I would wear instead of a mask, and it was the Rorschach mask. I absolutely loved it. I still have it somewhere. If I do a review, like a dedicated review, I should absolutely do it with that on. I need to see if I can find it. How many of y'all out there are thinking to yourselves, that girl gonna do that in a Rorschach mask? She just as crazy as he is. You're probably right. All right, let's talk about what is next after I finish what I'm currently working on. So I have two things that are next on my list. The first one is an audiobook. I have the second in the Locke Institute trilogy by A.R. Witham. That is The Trial of Rooker Flynn. That's going to be my next audiobook. I read and loved the first book in that series, which, oh goodness, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it is The Crimes of Rooker Flynn. It's something along those lines, and I do apologize to the author if I got that title wrong. I did not look it up. I just did this on the fly. I will have my review linked for you all to check that out, as well as the standalone that sparked this trilogy in the same world of Key Mark, The Legend of Blackjack. And then I will be picking up Marshall Karp's newest one coming out the first part of next month, March 4th, Don't Tell Me How to Die. Oh my goodness, I am so excited to read this one. I cannot wait. And Scythe and Sparrow is definitely reminding me how much I like crime thrillers. Even though that one's a little bit way on the far end of the spectrum of that genre, it's definitely reminding me how much I enjoy a good crime thriller. So this one is going to be perfectly timed to fully scratch that itch. So that takes care of everything I have been reading this week. I have thoroughly enjoyed everything. All of my picks this week have just been going so well. I am excited to get some of these reviews done and have them up on the channel for you to check out. A little more detail if you're on the fence about a couple of these books. I hope one of these books I have put on your radar sounds good to you. You're gonna pick it up and maybe it'll be your new favorite read of 2025. Thank you so much for watching and joining me here today. I appreciate your time. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will see you in the next one. This channel would not be what it is today without its patrons, especially those of my top tier: Ev, Sharon, Kate, Andrew, Amanda, Ann, Tara, Star, Gail, John, Chad, Heidi, and Wilbur.